Welcome everyone, Costin here on Serious Gaming to talk about the YouTube Content ID changes. What did YouTube change? Why did they implement these changes? Why is everyone so up in arms over them? And what changes are they going to implement on the site in the near future that are going to adversely affect content producers even further? Gameplay footage on the background is from Total War Rome 2, the Battle of Alesia on the legendary difficulty. I used NVIDIA Shadowplay, which apparently records at 50 frames per second. That causes some issues with YouTube because YouTube videos run at 30 frames per second. Anyway, what did YouTube change? Actually, why did they implement these changes? Just want to get something out of the way here really quickly. YouTube did not implement these changes due to pressure from any corporation or any industry like so many people would like to believe. No big bad evil corporation came to YouTube and threatened them to implement these changes or they would sue them. That did not happen. YouTube implemented these changes on their own. However, when you really look into what happened and the details and their reasoning, you might just agree with YouTube's reasoning, though you might not. You'll very likely won't agree with how they approach the situation. I personally don't agree with how they approach the situation. I don't think it really fixes the issue. In fact, it might just make it a bit worse than it was before. Just my 2 cents. So what did YouTube change? Well, the Content ID system. The Content ID system is something YouTube has had for a very long time as a way to try and police YouTube. Something as large as YouTube, you really can police it. But YouTube tried as a means of trying to appease all the companies that were suing them or threatening to sue them. They created the Content ID system. It's been here for a great deal of time, many years. Now the Content ID system automatically scans every video that's uploaded to the site to determine whether or not that video has copyrighted material and whether or not it falls under fair use. Now the problem with this is that the system is unreliable as fuck. It cannot differentiate between someone doing a review of a video game using gameplay footage or someone uploading a cutscene to YouTube. It cannot differentiate between someone doing a let's play or a walkthrough of a video game and they have a song, in-game music running for that because it's running at that specific moment in that game, as opposed to someone just taking that song, ripping that song from the game or taking it from soundtrack and just uploading it to YouTube. Doesn't care. Doesn't make the difference. Doesn't make the difference between a review of a movie using seconds of that movie and someone uploading the entire movie to YouTube. Doesn't care. And that's the problem with the system. Now, YouTube is to blame for having this bullshit system that isn't really inaccurate. You can get away with things you really shouldn't get away with under the current system. And you can get flagged, you can get a Content ID match for the tiniest of things. For things that really shouldn't put the Content ID claim on your videos, because that's what happens when the system determines you have copyrighted material and it doesn't fall under fair use to get Content ID match. Now, Content ID match means, among other things, you cannot monetize that video. Might also mean the sound is removed from that video, might mean that the video is blocked in certain countries, even worldwide, etc., etc. That's what happens with the Content ID system. Now, for quite a few years, a lot of people on YouTube, especially the bigger channels, have been able to get protection from the system. They did so by joining a multi-channel network. Now, YouTube allowed the networks to be formed under the idea that these networks would be responsible for the channels they partnered. They would police these channels, check to see what content they were uploading, etc., etc. Overall, they were supposed to be responsible for the channels they partnered, and in return, they would have protection from the automatic system. I guess that goes to show that YouTube in itself did not exactly trust the system they created, but instead of fixing it, they just gave people the power to avoid it entirely, and the vast majority of YouTubers that are making their living off the site as content producers basically went this route. They joined the network to get protection from the system, as well as other benefits. For a long time, you could only set custom thumbnails on your videos if you're a partner on YouTube. You could get the protection of the system. You'd get better paid ads. In theory, I say in theory because many networks take a significant cut of the money you're making as a partner, even though they do very little. They're responsible for the contracts, for the ads, but that's about all they do really for the most part. There are a few other benefits as well, but nothing really major, nothing that would be worth a network taking 40 or 50% of the revenue you make, because that's how much they take, by the way. Also, significant portion of the money that you make goes to YouTube itself. So yeah, you might make, say, thousands of dollars, but a significant amount of that goes to YouTube, significant amount of what's left goes to the network you're partnered with. The thing with networks is that they were created with a purpose to police these channels, and they didn't do their job. They haven't been doing their jobs for years. They abused their powers. They used that ability to give people protection from the automatic system, the bullshit system, as a means of enticing people to become partners within the network and take a significant cut of the money people were making. They also had very low requirements in terms of views per month that you had to get in order to join the network. Social Blade, as an example, I'm a partner with Social Blade, which is part of Maker Studios. Social Blade asks for 2,500 monthly views, and that's before the recent changes. 2,500 monthly views, that's nothing. You barely will earn any money. But that highlights the issue here. There's a lot of milking of partners and networks for as much money as possible, and they don't care to be responsible for these channels in any way. We'll take your money. We'll force you to sign a contract, by the way, that requires you to stay 1 or even 2 years within the network, but we won't care to actually do the job we were created to do. And YouTube had enough of this bullshit. They were quite forgiving for a great deal of years, but they had enough of networks abusing the powers they were given. So they contacted every network. And some networks have tried playing it dumb, but they knew. Every single network knew what was coming. They knew when it was coming. It was originally in early December. It was delayed, delayed for a couple of weeks. Then we finally got the changes. Now what they did was they brought the hammer down on the networks, though not as hard as I think they should have done, because they still allowed the bullshit to continue. So what they did was they went to every network and told them, well, you've been abusing the power you were given. You've been partnering people by the thousands and not giving a shit to check what kind of content they were uploading, and people and the partners under your network were abusing the power. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna force you to separate your partner channels into 2 categories: affiliates and managed channels. Now, managed channels will still retain the protection from the Content ID system as before. But if any of these managed channels breaks copyright law, if any of these channels gets a Content ID match, or a copyright strike, your network could be severely hit by a single partner. The entire network can be shut down, as an example, just because of a single partner. It can go that far. And that means you have to be responsible for the channels that get managed status and retain that protection against the Content ID system. For those that you do not want to be responsible for, well, you can put them under affiliate, and that means they no longer have the protection against the automatic system, but you're no longer responsible for it, because the Content ID system is supposedly gonna deal with any copyright abuse, right? Except it doesn't work properly. And that's where the problems arose. Because networks don't give a shit about their partners besides milking them for as much money as possible. They don't care to do their job. They're open about it. In fact, in the contract, in many networks, if not all of them, it's specifically stated that they are not responsible for you breaking copyright law, even though they were created as networks with the idea that they would be responsible. They don't care to do it. They don't trust their partners. They treat them like trash. They try and keep them for as many years as possible, etc., etc. That's what networks do. So what happened is that networks decided that the vast majority of partners under them would get affiliate status as opposed to managed status. Very few partners have gotten managed status. Even partners with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, even over 1 million subscribers like Angry Joe, have been put under affiliate status. This goes to show that the networks really don't give a shit about what kind of content the channels under them are uploading. They don't really know what these channels are doing. They don't care. They really don't care, except that they're making money off of them. And that's where the problems start rolling in. That's why so many people have woken up, especially under Maker Studios partners, under Maker Studios controlling Social Blade and Polaris, among others. People like Angry Joe, they're part of Polaris, thus they're under Maker Studios. People under Maker Studios didn't really know that when these changes were going to hit. We were not told by Maker when these changes were going to go live on YouTube. Whereas other networks did tell their partners. And the networks have tried playing the victim card or the ignorant card or the whatever card, innocent card, saying, well, we're not responsible for this. Actually, you are responsible for this because you decided who was going to get managed status and who was going to get affiliate status. Is YouTube to blame for basically calling the networks out on their bullshit? No, YouTube did the reasonable thing here. And I think they really should have gone further and told the networks, well, if you don't want to be responsible for any of these partners, then you just have to let them go. That's what I would have done in YouTube's place personally. Because right now you have a lot of channels partnered with networks that are under affiliate status, will likely never get managed status within those networks because very few networks are willing to give managed status to partners. Curse Gaming is about the only one that I personally know of. I've heard of others, but that's the only one I can personally name. So if you want to become a partner on YouTube, I'd recommend Curse Gaming, not just for that though, for a bunch of other benefits. For instance, whereas many networks ask for 50 or 40% of their revenue share, Curse only asks for 10%, and they don't have a 1-year contract as with other networks. And they also have the highest requirements on YouTube to become a partner at this very moment. Also, they're setting up a review process for people to get managed status. That's not to say Curse Gaming did not engage in this bullshit of partnering people by the thousands. They certainly did. They certainly did not care to be responsible. But in terms of networks, in terms of big networks, they're probably one of the better ones. If you have any ideas of other good networks out there, please mention them in the comment section. So that's what happened. People woke up with with a lot of content ID claims because when YouTube removed the protection, when people were put on their affiliate status, all their videos were scanned, and they woke up with hundreds, dozens, whatever, content ID claims on their channel, on the videos they had on their channel. Even when they had all the rights for those videos. For instance, many people woke up with claims on their videos because they've made the custom intro for videos on their channel, and they got royalty-free music for that intro, for which they have all the rights to in order to use on YouTube, that is. They woke up with claims on that. They woke up with claims for Let's Play videos, walkthrough videos, review videos, for which they have permission to do, or they have the legal right to do reviews without asking for permission. For Let's Plays walkthroughs, you are allowed by the vast majority of developers and publishers to do them, even if you're monetizing them. There are only 3 major companies that I personally know of that are not okay with it. Some people would also say Microsoft, but I'm not so sure about that. I think the situation Microsoft is uncertain in regards to monetize Let's Plays walkthroughs. Nintendo, however, is against them, monetizing them. They're okay with people doing Let's Plays walkthroughs, they're just not okay with people monetizing them. Then there's Quantic Dream, Beyond Two Souls, and Heavy Rain, they made those games, among others. And then there's Telltale Games, Walking Dead video game series, among others. Now, some people can make the argument that, well, the Quantic Dream games and the Telltale games are story-focused. Yes, but these games, while they are focused on the story, do have a lot of choices within the story, and no one plays, essentially in a sense they're RPGs, in a sense you have a lot of choices to make that do influence the story. And people play these kind of games differently, vastly differently. So I would say that yes, they do have the right to do Let's Plays, walkthroughs of those games, that it is a different playthrough, depending on the person in question who's playing those games. And Nintendo, well, everyone plays a game differently in terms, actual gameplay. So, yeah, I personally believe that for Let's Plays and walkthroughs, if you do them with commentary, that is, you should have the legal right to do them without permission from the developer publisher. That's my stance on the subject matter. And you might ask why. Well, when you're doing a Let's Play walkthrough with commentary, you're generally gonna give your opinion on the game. And guess what? There are thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people who do care about that opinion. Just look at the bigger Let's Players on YouTube. They have millions of people following them, and millions of people that actually do trust them to have a more honest opinion than many reviewers do have this day. So they do care about their opinion. And the problem is when you have to ask for permission for that, then that can be abused. You can be censored at. The company might just wake up one day and tell, well, we're going to revoke this permission because you said something bad about our game. That has happened, by the way, on YouTube. Even with reviews. For reviews, by the way, you have every legal right in the world to do a review of a game without asking for permission. Because you don't want people to be censored. Because you don't want abuse by whoever owns the copyright. That's why you have the legal right. However, Let's Plays walkthroughs do fall under a legal gray area, but most developers, publishers are okay with them. So there's that. I think it should be something that's brought before a court of law so that we have a decision made on that subject matter. But unless you're covering Nintendo games, Quantic Dream games, or Telltale games, you're fine with regards to Let's Plays, even if you're monetizing them. Anyway, so what happens now? We've gotten thousands of claims on hundreds, dozens, even thousands of claims overall on videos on YouTube. Partners are not trusted by their networks. They're being treated by the networks like trash. And you can't leave these networks. If you signed a 1-year contract, they'll just claim, well, we didn't breach the contract, even though you kind of did, actually. I'm seriously considering consulting a lawyer on the subject matter, explaining the entire situation to them and getting an answer to that before I decide to take it a step further. I did ask for my contract with the network that I meant to be ended in light of the changes. They refused. They claimed that it's not a breach of contract. We'll see. Though I personally do expect that they're not going to release me and I'll have to wait until my contract expires and then ask for it to be terminated. Because that's just how it's going. Because the networks are, well, they've been abusing their powers. They were treating their partners like trash. Don't join a network, especially nowadays. Like before, you might make an argument, oh, join a network because of the protection from the content ID system. Now there's no point. Unless it's a network that doesn't require you stay for them for a year. You might make an argument, oh, in a network you're earning more money because the ads are better, yes, but you have to pay up to 50% of their revenue share to them for being part of that network. So I don't know if you're really earning much more money than with the default program. Personally, I joined the network because at the time the Google AdSense program on YouTube was not available in my country, so it was the only way for me to make a living off of YouTube at the time. Now, it is available in my country, but personally I think I'm going to stick with the network. I'm just going to switch networks. Seriously considering Curse Gaming unless I find a better alternative. I'll see with regards to that. So what do you do if you get content ID claims? So what are your options? Well, if I look at my copyright notices page, you'll see that I have 7 videos. Now I got about 40 copyright content ID claims from the automatic system. By the way, that protection I was talking about from the content ID system does not mean you can get content ID claims anymore. You could still get them if someone manually put them on your videos. You could still get copyright strikes. Your channels could still be shut down with free copyright strikes. It just meant protection from the automatic system. Anyway, if you have content ID claims, you can dispute the claims. Now, it can take up to 30 days to get an answer, and you might just get this kind of reply. If I look at this Age of Mythology video, a game that's been out for over a fucking decade, by the way, you see that they rejected my dispute. Now, you can appeal this. It can take up to 30 days to get an answer from the appeal, and if they refuse your appeal, you'll get a copyright strike. Free copyright strikes, your channel is terminated. You don't want that to happen. Also, you can only have up to 3 appeals at any given point. So yes, a load of bullshit there as well. Now, there are a couple of companies. In light of these changes, companies have actually taken notice of what the Content ID system actually does, because before these changes, they really didn't care to properly assess the situation. They didn't care about, well, what kind of video is this? They just saw, oh, Content ID claim, they disputed it, I'll reinstate it. That was the policy for a great deal of companies. Now, in light of these changes and all the shouting and crying, all of that from YouTube content producers, companies have taken notice. Companies like Ubisoft, Capcom, Blizzard are coming out to support YouTubers. And I cannot believe I'll say this, but thank you to every single one of you. Despite all the bullshit you've gotten away with over the last couple of years. I'm looking at you, Blizzard. I'm looking at you, Capcom. God, I can't believe people are saying thank you to Capcom, despite all the bullshit they've done over the last couple of years. Well, yeah, well, they're doing something right, and you can't fault them for that. But I'm saying it through clenched teeth, because I have not forgotten how Ubisoft has treated PC gamers. I have not forgotten about what Blizzard has been doing with World of Warcraft, or with Diablo, or with StarCraft. No, I have not forgotten about all these things, and about how they have a subscription-based MMO, whereas they're still selling items in-game. As an example, I have not forgotten about any of these things. But, yeah, I am thankful for the fact that these companies have actually come out on the side of YouTubers, because they're fine with people doing gameplay videos of their games on YouTube and monetizing them. They're okay with that. There are a couple of companies that people have had to deal with for the most part, you know, the major companies. There's Merlin Phonophile. They're the ones who claimed all these Age of Mythology videos and the Kingdom of Amalur videos on my channel. They also claimed other videos, which I dealt with in a certain way. Now, Merlin Phonophile, I've heard that very recently they've started to release claims. So if you get a claim from them, you could dispute it right now and maybe it will be released. Personally, I've gotten every single claim rejected by them, except for one video, and that was about 3 days ago. That's it. Only one video. A Napoleon Total War video. My first Napoleon Total War video for about 10 seconds because of this intro music that runs when you start the game before you actually start the grand campaign. Yeah. Then there's Ingrooves. I got a lot of claims from them on my Mass Effect videos. They've released every single claim except on one video. I appealed that initially, then I dealt with it in another way. I'll get into that in just a second. But besides that, they released every single claim on my video, so for the most part, you won't have problems with them. Then there's Idle. They're a Ubisoft partner. Ubisoft contacted them, told them to release the claims. They've been releasing claims for the most part, except a few, I guess. So no problems with Idle, no problems with Ingrooves. Phonophile is a bitch, however. Then there's other companies. Depends on what kind of videos you do. There's Universal Music Group, there's Sony Music Entertainment as well. People have had issues with both of them. I got one Universal Music Group claim on one of my World in Conflict videos, and they just allowed the dispute to expire. If a company doesn't reply to a dispute in 30 days, the claim will be released automatically, so they have to reply to that. Now, your other option, besides going through the appeal process after getting a rejected dispute, and then going through the copyright strike process if you get a rejected appeal, is to try re-uploading the clip in question. Now, this is something that I believed would work in light of how the changes were implemented by YouTube. If there's one thing YouTube screwed up, in my eyes, with all these changes, it was not their reasoning. It was not the fact that they approached the entire situation in the wrong manner by perhaps being too forgiving to the networks despite bringing the hammer down on their heads. It was the fact that when they released the protection on channels, when the protection from channels was removed from the protection from the automatic system, they ordered the robot to go on a scanning frenzy. That scanning frenzy has died down. Which means that if you have a video that's been up for several weeks, months, even years, it means if you re-upload it, it's very likely you will not get a Content ID claim on the video you just re-uploaded. which goes to show the weakness of the system, by the way, which goes to show how bad the system is. Like, oh, we arbitrarily decide that this video is breaking copyright law. It's not using it in a fair manner. Then you just take that video down and you re-upload it and you no longer get the content ID match. I tried this myself for free videos. None of them have gotten content ID claims. These free videos in question. Now, these two, Age of Mythology Part 6 and The 6 Human Revolution Part 1, they got claims from Phonophile. The disputes were rejected. I just re-uploaded them. No content ID claims. This one was from Ingrooves, the only video on which they rejected the dispute. Of all the videos that had claims on my channel from them, that was the only one that got a rejected dispute. Initially, I thought about appealing it. Wrote a pretty lengthy appeal message. You know, there's people out there telling you what you should write to companies so that you are more likely to be noticed. I'll put a link in the description to a very useful guide on how to write appeals, how to deal with the entire system. Check that out if you're a YouTube partner. It's very useful. Or if you want to become one, it's very useful information to have. Wrote a message like that. Appealed it. Then I decided, you know what, I'm going to try re-uploading that clip. So I deleted it, re-uploaded it, and no content ID claim. But I think Ingrooves got my message because another video that also had a claim from them had a claim shortly thereafter release. So I guess they got my message, and they also saw that I had another claim. Or maybe just for that video they decided to release the claim. I don't know. So that's what happened. These are your options. Now, I would strongly suggest, and I stress this out, strongly suggest that you at least go for the dispute process. You might even consider going through the appeal process with the maximum 2 appeals you can have at any given point. Though that appeal process, especially if you get a rejected appeal, can take up to 2 months, because if you get a rejected appeal, then you get 2 copyright strikes, then you have to wait another month to get rid of the copyright strikes and get your video reinstated. As long as you have copyright strikes, you cannot appeal any further. Yes, you can have free appeals at any time, but you can see the problem there. If you get more copyright strikes, your channel is shut down. Lovely fucking system that YouTube has. Now, with regards to the changes that YouTube is going to be implementing in the near future, there is another system that that channels that were not partnered in the network have had to deal with for years, like the Content ID system, and that's the review system, the video review system. In that, a random video that you upload is going to be flagged for review. Now, in that case, someone, an actual person, which will check that video to see if it falls under fair use. And if it does, if they determine that, an actual person or robot, they determine that, they'll allow your video to be monetized. It's completely random. The idea is to prevent abuse as much as possible on something as large as YouTube. It's a far more effective form of policing YouTube as opposed to the fucking Content ID system. Just in my humble opinion. It's far more effective because it is an actual person that's reviewing that. It can take up to several days. Some people are saying weeks. I don't think it's going to take weeks, but I suppose at most it could take up to a week for the review process to go through. And while you have the review process, you cannot monetize the video. Some networks are saying, well, you should put it on unlisted. The problem with putting a video on unlisted maker studios, just so you fucking know about how YouTube works, is that if you put a video on unlisted status, it doesn't get shown in the subscriber feeds. It means your subscribers will not take notice of that video. And that's fucking important when you just upload a video, because in the first few days of uploading the video, that's when the video generally gets the most traffic, especially if you're a bigger channel and you're doing less videos than someone like me is. So get your fucking facts together. At least do your job properly that you're supposed to do, because you are fucking terrible at understanding the basics. You don't know how YouTube works. Seriously. Yes, I'm pissed off because that was, oh, just put the video on unlisted. Wow. Seriously. Wow. Wow. That's your solution. That's your fucking solution. Maker Studios, TGN, others as well. Yeah. Wonderful. Just fucking wonderful. Excuse me for going on a rant there, but they kind of deserve it. They really do deserve it. They deserve to be dragged in a court of law for the bullshit they've done, and to have the hammer dropped on their fucking heads for all the shit they've gotten away with. They fucking deserve that. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. It's a terrible situation. I hope it does get better. Personally, I fully expect that the network I'm in will not release me from my contract, and nor will they release anyone who wants to be released from their contract until the term of that contract is up. And YouTube partners, well, if you're a YouTube partner, most YouTube partners, believe it or not, they're not making a fortune. They're not making a huge amount of money off their work. They're barely getting by. So in that situation, are you really gonna enter a lengthy trial with a company? Even if you win, are you gonna do that? Just putting that out there. Are you really gonna do that? A costly trial as well? It's not an option. We need the networks to be held accountable for the shit they've done. That's my opinion. Anyway, Costin here on Serious Gaming, signing off.